Hi, I'm James Shippey. I'm the breaking news anchor with KOIN 6 in Portland, CW. Thanks for joining us with KOIN Conversations. And I've got someone special from PGE with me today, joined by John Farmer. Thanks for joining me today. How's it going this morning?
Oh, pretty good. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. It's been like I said, we were talking earlier. Been up since about 3 something this morning.
Yeah.
So
Early
you
morning.
just
Hey,
do
well,
your
that's time to
best.
be up these days. It's nice and cool. It's nice and pleasant.
That's very
Yeah.
true. That's very true. So, yes, John, if you could just kind of give us a little background about your position with PGE and what it is that you do. It's going to be a very informative episode today
Yeah.
for any of the viewers going forward.
Yeah, very cool. Well, first off, thanks for, having the chat. I think this is a great opportunity to share some good information with folks. So I'm a PGE spokesman, and a lot of what I focus on is helping some of our engineers and operators and grid folks educate the public about ways to be prepared. So, when we think about preparedness from kind of a utility standpoint, that is power outages and impacts from Mother Nature on the grid, and how can customers be prepared? What are the things that they need to know, or that things that would help guide their decisions to just be ready? I think we've seen over the last few years, especially the last probably 4 or 5 years, um, winters and summers in the Pacific Northwest in Portland are evolving. I mean, I'm a native Oregonian. I've lived here my whole life, and things have changed. And so now the need to be prepared, the need to have a plan, the need to make sure you've got connections and organizations and groups and people ready to support and take care of each other is every year gets more and more important. And so that's what we're doing. That's what I want to talk about today with you specifically. Here it is, summer, fire season in the Northwest, which again, for those of us who are native to the Northwest, um, fire season wasn't a thing even just a handful of years ago. And so this is a new, relatively new issue that is not just specific to Portland or PGE or even Oregon. This is a West Coast thing, and we're seeing it now in other parts of the country. This is Canada. This is other parts. So this is a big issue that requires a lot of groups, a lot of people pitching in, doing what they can to help be prepared and help prevent wildfire.
Now, you make a good point, John. And one of the things that obviously we're looking at some of that footage there. And before you saw Governor Kotek there, and they were saying this could be a pretty significant wildfire season that we're in. How has it been so far, especially for folks that may not be, I'm asking you from my point of view. I've been living
Yeah.
here for a few years now, but, I'm not familiar with wildfires from like 2020 and some of these other, big ones throughout the years. How is this
Yeah.
compared to like what you've expected so
What we're
far?
seeing is, yeah, what we're seeing now is kind of, I think, what some of the meteorologists and some of our wildland firefighting folks have expected. I think they've anticipated some of the fires, specifically here though in PGE service area. And just so we all are aware, PGE service area runs essentially from Forest Grove in the west to about Mount Hood in the east and down to Salem in the south. So that kind of main Portland general metro
Covers
area.
all that area. Yes.
When we're talking about wildfire risk for us for PGE, that's kind of the area that we're really focused on. It's at the time of this interview, it's mid-July. We haven't seen any major impactful fires yet to PGE infrastructure or customers, right? So that's good. I think we maintain a posture of readiness, regardless of time of year. Obviously, there are times of year where we are more ready, a little more heightened, as it were. And so I think what we're seeing is we've got um, our wildfire prevention strategies are in full effect right now. We can dive into some of those if you want. But, namely, the one that I'll highlight is we have a network of wildfire cameras, wildfire monitoring cameras. And those
Hmm.
cameras are detecting ignitions and fires throughout the area, and they alert our emergency response organizations and PGE to these things so we can go take care of them. So that's, when we think about how are things going with the fire season, what are the current conditions like? I would say It's kind of what we are planning for and anticipating, and we are on a ready posture.
No, that makes sense, John, because I speak from personal experience. It wasn't wildfires, but we lost power. My wife, I, and my was three at the time. Well, actually, it was two and a half during those ice storms.
Oh,
And
wow.
that was the first time I had. I've lost power before in the past. I've lived in certain places where certain things happen, some flooding,
Sure.
and I'm from Houston, so we have some flooding there and stuff. But
Yeah.
I had never lost power for more than like a couple of hours, and I remember we lost power that Saturday morning. I don't
Mhm.
know, 9 in the morning, and I just kept telling my wife like, "Okay, it'll come back." And then we got into the afternoon. It's like, "Oh, this may not come back," and how much we
Yeah.
rely on our power, right? Our internet, everything else. I mean, cooking food in the refrigerator, like very basic stuff. But we lost power basically for about 4 days. We were hit really hard hit area where like down
Yeah.
power lines and everything else. We had to do an Airbnb. So when I think of a service like this, is very important. And I'm assuming it doesn't matter the disaster or kind of natural thing. It can all kind of be the same, right? When it comes to these outages.
Oh yeah. Well, so the way we think about that, and I was working with PGE during that January 2024 wind and ice storm. That was a big deal. That was a very impactful storm. And it's like I said, Mother Nature throws has been throwing some stuff at us that has really pushed the limits of the resiliency of our grid. I would say our linemen and our operations folks really rose to the occasion and got power back up and running as quickly and safely as they could. But it speaks to a larger issue that I was talking about before around preparedness, just the general. This is something that is should now be a year-round practice for people living in not just PGE service area, but Oregon, the Northwest. You've got summer, you've got wind and heat and dry and fire risk in the summer. And then you've got the rain, snow, ice, and heavy winds in the winter. So one of the things we encourage customers to do, there's three things really when we think about preparedness. The first is the outage plan. So for example, power goes out and it's only scheduled to be out for a few hours, but what is your plan? Do you have friends or family that you can go stay with? Do you have a favorite hotel that's just down the road, right? Things like that, that type of thought process. And these plans can be as simple or as complex as you want them to be, but they need to be tailored to your family. The second thing, which supports the planning, is the outage kit. So, for example, the storm you brought up, the January 24th storm, that was a winter storm. So, your winter outage kit should have things like, food and water and medicine, obviously, things like that, but blankets, maybe the little hand warmers, uh, things that you can use to keep you warm, right? So, you got your kit. And then the third thing is making sure PGE has your updated contact information, phone and email, so that way we can share the information with you, let you know what's going on, and you can stay up to date on how things are going. PGE's homepage, this is our home website, and this is where you log in, see if I'm a PGE customer, right? So there's my information. So what you want to do is we have our outages and safety, and I will say right off the bat, we always encourage folks to go here, but we have our outage map. Again, this is where it shows, this is where you can get the most up-to-date information, whether it's a winter storm, a summer uh, issue, something going on. So, we always encourage folks to come to our outage map for the information that they
And this
need.
is a great resource, by the way, that we definitely use in the
Yes.
newsroom whenever we're trying to
Yes.
let folks know where the outages are.
Yes, and so we always encourage folks, you can access the outage map on our app, um, you on what online, on the web, all the places, but definitely go here first. So now, but when we're thinking about preparedness, we're gonna go down to this public safety power shutoff. And if you just Google Portland General Electric or public safety power shutoff, it's gonna bring you right where you need to go. So let's talk real quick about what a PSPS is. So we talked about these areas at greater risk for wildfire, right? Well, a public safety power shutoff is a tool that we can use to reduce wildfire risk even more. So it is a tool that we use where we proactively turn off power if weather conditions, environmental conditions are such that it's just not safe for us to operate the grid anymore. So think about, for example, the 2020 Labor Day fires, right? We de-energized portions of our lines out in the Mount Hood corridor area because it was the high winds, it was hot, it was dry. And sure enough, after that storm blew through, after we kind of reassessed what was going on, there were power lines with branches and trees and stuff just on them. But we had
Hmm.
already turned the power off, so those lines didn't have the chance or the opportunity to spark or to ignite anything.
And this
So
is a very preemptive thing that you guys do because maybe sometimes
yes,
folks may get their. I'm assuming folks always get like a warning sometimes, but
yes,
folks might be, oh, why turn this off? But this is to prevent any further issue because if a wildfire
yes,
starts because of down power lines, the wind, now we're in more of a world of hurt besides just not having
yep.
the convenience of our power on. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's one of those things where we have our, again, we go back to our operators, the wildfire team, all of these folks are meteorologists who are looking at the situation and they're saying the conditions are too risky for us to keep the power on. Therefore, we're going to turn the power off during this time window, right? Our meteorologist will say, hey, the high winds are going to last from noon to midnight. We go, great. So we're going to proactively turn off power, right? Because, and it's not just high winds. I don't want to conflate high winds, right? There's multiple variables that go into these types of decisions. This is a big decision to turn off power, right? But it's an important one because it is a very effective way to keep communities safe from potential utility caused wildfires, right? We don't want to be the cause of a, a large wildfire. And so that's why our entire wildfire prevention program is oriented around keeping our communities and people and the environment safe, right? So, one of the things we make available to folks is this map. And so this is it. So I mentioned PGE's service area before, right? You can kind
Mm-hmm.
of see it here. So here's Hood River. So on the east, here's Hood River, right? You've got Mount Hood, kind of in this area over here dragging along the way. The black line kind of follows the Columbia up. You've got Forest Grove and Banks and areas out here, and then you can see we go way down here, Sheridan, Willamina, and then Silverton, Salem. So you can kind of get a sense of the size of PGE's service area, and the purple or lavender, or whatever color you want to call it, these are the areas that we were talking about before that are at greater risk for wildfire. And again, this is because we have a team of folks who have analyzed many, many, many different factors and said, okay, we've identified areas that are at greater risk for wildfire. So for example, let's choose Mount Hood, right? You can see as we go along. So that tells me there's some power lines up there, there's power lines here, and these are all the areas. So if you click on it, right, it'll tell you, oh, hey, this is the Mount Hood corridor, and it kind of gives you a description of where it is. So
Oh,
now, let's do so. Let's pick an address, right? Let's say here, the what is the World Trade? 121 Southwest Salmon Street, Portland, Oregon, right? The World Trade Center in
okay.
downtown Portland, right? So let's see. Okay, so there it is. That this is PGE's corporate headquarters right on, downtown. So you can see right here, this address is not in an area that's high risk for a PSPS. So then you can kind of zoom out and go, oh, okay, cool. I see, oh, but we got a little area over here. This is kind of, the base, the tip of Forest Park. So this gives you an idea. So what we encourage customers to do, again, as part of that plan, right? As part of the, preparing and planning for, in this case, summer outages, just drop your address in here, see where you are, right? And then that at least gives you some information to understand what's going on, and
Am
those
I in
things.
a high risk area, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I do want to make the clarification that even though we've identified these areas, the kind of the purple colors, even though we've identified these areas as areas at greater risk, we can a public safety power shutoff can be anywhere in our service area. Okay. Because a PSPS or a public safety power shutoff is is in response to conditions, not just geographical plots
I
of, on
see.
the earth, right? So it's possible, I live in the Beaverton area. It's possible that conditions may be such that PG says, oh my goodness, it is very risky in this area of Beaverton and Aloha. We need to turn off power to, this area to prevent wildfire.
I see. So it's not
Yeah.
as you said, because some people might be like, they put their address in there. Oh well, I should, I'm
Yeah.
not in a high risk area. But you're saying no matter where you are, it's good awareness. But obviously, if you're
Yes.
in a high risk area, you should know because it
Right.
could maybe be more likely,
Yes,
perhaps.
if you're in a high risk area, if you're at an area that's at greater risk, that's just all that means is the environmental conditions, the weather conditions, it's probably very forested, maybe a little remote, right? Um, there's just more conditions that are conducive to wildfire, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you'll experience wildfire. It just means there's a greater likelihood, right? And again, what we want for this information to help inform people so they can say, oh, even though it's there's a greater likelihood, it may not happen, but I should still be prepared. I should have the outage kit. I should have the plan. And if your plan involves going to someone's house that's also in a high fire, a high risk area, maybe find a friend or a family member that's not in a high risk area, right? So again, it's just a helpful way to think through and to plan out how are you going to be prepared in the event of an outage.
Well, John, it's this is just great information as we're going to wrap up here in the next minute or so. I guess kind of the overarching theme, because this is just really, it's part of the planning process, because once again, you
Yeah.
want to be prepared. In the unfortunate that you have to have your power cut off or there's any kind of issues going on, ice storm, obviously in this instance, wildfire. We're right in the middle of wildfire season right now. And that's just the kind of the overarching theme. Um, I think this is pretty. I'm not sure if there's anything else because other than that, I would tell you, because of, we have to pay bills here. So
Yeah.
I would say, so basically the main thing is for folks, highly recommended, go to the website, check out that PSPS page.
Yep.
Just to kind of get an idea of these high fire risk zones and just in general, so you can see a map, get a little peeling behind the process, as you say.
Yeah. And it's again, this is just a simple tool, right? There are many other planning tools out there. Uh, the utility is not the only thing that impacts ready takeaway here. You have the power companies are involved, fire departments are involved, emergency county and state emergency management organizations are involved, right? There are so many people and organizations and companies involved in just being prepared. Everyone plays their own piece. So PGE's role in this is to keep the grid safe. So when we think about safety and taking care of our communities, we're looking at where are the power lines in these areas and how can we make sure that grid reliably delivers power to people, but in the extreme event that it's just not safe anymore, how do we turn off that power? Also, not forgetting that local and county emergency managers are probably thinking through evacuations. The fire department is thinking about how they're going to respond to potential fires, right? The sheriff's department is thinking about how they're going to help move people and resources. So everyone's playing a part in this. Everyone's got a role to play. And residents and customers, PGE customers, they have a role to play. So again, we all have a role in this. And so it's just good to just have the information available and then make your plan to be prepared.
Well, John, I want to thank you again for joining me. For sure, it's been a real
Yeah.
pleasure and eye-opening, and I hope this definitely has helped me out. So I'm sure it'll definitely help some of the viewers out there out as well as they do their prep and be ready just in case. Safety
Yeah.
first,
Yep.
definitely.
It never hurts to be prepared.
That's right, definitely. All right, well, thanks, John, and yeah, be in touch. Try and stay cool out there.
Yeah,
Super
you
hot
too.
out.
Yeah. Yeah, you too.
All right, thanks, man.